Okay, good day and welcome to our video tutorial lessons at Gleaming Moon School, Umuahia. This is Mrs. Edith Igwe and I'm going to be your maths tutor. I'll be taking you through a series of lessons on various maths topics, and my goal will be to break down each topic into smaller chunks of manageable tutorials, and I will help you work your way through the skills levels. We will start with the basics, set the foundation right, and then we build on from there. At the end of every tutorial, there will be an accompanying quiz which you will complete via a different medium. So make sure you have your pen, paper, pencil, eraser, math sets, and all the equipment that you will require. Pay attention and follow every instruction that I will give you. Practice things you've learned over and over and over. Watch this video again and again and again. And I tell you, with practice, in no time, you will become a master of mathematics. Okay, so you're welcome to this video. This is the first video in a series of lessons on the topic standard form. This is the introductory video, and this video is called SF Standard Form. Okay, our aim in this video is to understand what standard form means, be able to identify a number that is written in standard form, and be able to determine whether a number is written in standard form or not. Hence, we know the features of a number in standard form. Now, in science, we are told that the nucleus of an atom is 0.000000000001 meters. Can you think about that number? Do you think that number will be big or small? And look at this one. The length of a virus is 0.0000002 meters. In comparison with the first number, which one do you think is bigger? Which one do you think is smaller? Okay, let's have a look at this one. The diameter of the eye of a fly. Imagine the fly, ijiji. The diameter of his eye is said to be 0.0008 meters. And finally, the distance from Earth to the moon is 400,000,000. So if you look at all these numbers, you will find that this one here is 400 million. Okay, so if you look at 0, 0, 0, and another 0, 0, 0, that is like where you have 0, 0, 0 and 0, 0, 0. Now, if you come to the beginning and add 1, you've got 1 million there, haven't you? And if you've got 1 million, so in this number we have here now, that means from here is the million part. So that means this number here is 400 million. Okay, so if the distance from Earth to the moon is 400 million, that's a very big number. Now imagine these ones that are 0.000. So you will only find that these numbers are very small numbers, whereas this one here is very big. Okay, so let us see. Standard form. So we've looked at numbers that are very big and numbers that are very small. What then is standard form? A standard form can be called a shorthand in maths, just like you learn shorthand in business studies. In maths is a short way of writing numbers. And what kind of numbers do we write in standard form? Very large and very small numbers. And standard form has a special form. It has a special way of writing it. Okay, now let's look at the format of standard form. The standard form must have a number that is between 1 and 10. That number should not be less than 1, and it shouldn't be up to 10. So it is equal to 1, or it can be more than 1, but it is not equal to 10. So the highest number you will have in a standard form will be 9.9999999 to whatever, to infinity, as long as it doesn't get to 10. Okay, now you have that number. That is the first part. The second part is that that number will be multiplied by 10. Not multiplied by 1, not 2, not 3 or 9 or whatever, but 10. It must be multiplied by 10. And that 10 that you're multiplying it by will have a power. It will be raised to a power. Okay, so here is an example of a standard form. So you have 2, which is a number between 1 and 10. And this 2 is multiplied by 10. So you have 2 times 10, which is the second point here, multiplied by 10. And then you have the power, okay, which is 3. So this 10 has been raised to the power 3. Okay, so that's the format. Now, let's go back to the number that we saw before. The nucleus of an atom, length of a virus, diameter of the eye of a fly, distance from Earth to the moon. How do we think we can write these numbers in standard form? Okay, so in standard form, instead of writing all these long numbers we have here, we write them in standard form. Okay, so how do we write them? Let's see how we write them in standard form. So you can see nucleus of an atom. This is the normal way it is written, 0.000000 all the way to 1. And this is the standard form of this number. So we can call this column standard form. Okay, so these numbers are written in standard form. So this column here shows you how we can write this now. So instead of writing all this, we write 1 times 10 raised to the power of 14, 2 times 10 raised to the power of -7, 8 times 10 raised to the power of -4, and 4 times 10 raised to the power of 8. Okay. Now, let's look at the parts of a number in standard form. Now, remember, like I told you before, our criteria is that it must be a number between 1 and 10. So we have 2 here. So that means this 2 must be a number between 1 and 10. So that's what we have here for 2. And also, that number must be multiplied by 10. So you can see that part there, multiplied by 10. It doesn't divide, it doesn't add, it doesn't subtract. It must be multiplied by 10. And then that 10 will definitely be raised to a power. Okay, and in this case, we have the power of 3. So the 10 must be raised to a power. Now, one thing you must note about this power is that the power must be a whole number, or what we call integer. Okay, it must be a whole number. It can be positive or it can be negative. Okay, it is not a decimal. Okay, and it is not a fraction. It must be a whole number. Always remember that. It must be a whole number. That is the key. Okay. Now, let's do some practice to identify which numbers are written in standard form and which numbers are not written in standard form, because sometimes you might get confused. People get confused on whether a number is actually in standard form or not. They think standard form is just when you times by 10 and raise to a power. That makes it a standard form. So let's have a look at these two examples. Example number 1, we have 16 times 10 raised to the power of 4 and 1 times 10 raised to the power of 7. Now, the first thing you do when you're deciding whether a number is written in standard form or not is to think about the features of a standard form. What are the features of a standard form? We identified 3 key features of a standard form. So our feature number 1 is that the number must be between 1 and 10. And feature number 2 is that it must be multiplied by 10. And feature number 3 is that the 10 must be raised to an integer power, or to a whole number power. So in order to decide which one is in standard form and which one is not, we will be using these features as our criteria. Okay, so let's have a look at number 1. 16. Is 16 between 1 and 10? Nope. 16 is greater than 10. And so because 16 is greater than 10, you can find that that disqualifies it from being a standard form. Even though we have multiplied by 10, okay, and we have an integer power, but it has failed the test, the number 1 test of being between 1 and 10. And therefore that disqualifies it from being in standard form. So this one is wrong. It is not a standard form. Now I want you to think about number 2. You can pause the video and think about question number 2. Is that number written in standard form or not? Okay. Now for us to decide if we are right, let's go back again to the features of standard form. So our first feature is number 1 point between 1 and 10. Is 1 between 1 and 10? Yes, it is between 1 and 10, so it passed that test. Does it multiply by 10? Yes, it does. It passed that test. Is that 10 raised to a power? Yes, it is raised to a power 7. And is that power 7 a whole number? Yes, it is a whole number. So that qualifies as a standard number. So you can see that this number has passed all 3 tests, and that means it is a standard number. And so we put a tick for that one for being a standard number. Okay, I'm going to ask you now to answer the rest of the questions. Okay, so here are questions 3 to question 12. pause the video and solve these ones yourself. Think about our 3 key features of a standard form. Does each of these numbers pass those 3 tests? Unless it passes the 3 tests, it is not in standard form. Right. So let's have a look at the answers. So you check if what you've done is correct or not. Okay. So you can see the correct ones are ticked in green, and the ones that are not correct are crossed in red. Now, what I'm going to do is to explain the incorrect ones and explain why they are not in standard form. So let's start with number 5. Number 5 has 0.54 times 10 raised to the power of 3. Okay, the first thing you ask is the number between 1 and 10 0.54? 0.54 is less than 1, so that one fails. And then you will ask, is it multiplied by 10? Yes, it is multiplied by 10. Does it have an integer power? Yes, 3 is an integer and it's the power of 10. So because 0.54 is not up to 1, this disqualifies as a standard form. Number 6, we have 12.1 times 10 raised to the power of minus 1. 12.1 is more than 10, so it doesn't fall between 1 and 10. Therefore, it fails number 1 test. Times 10, yes, it is multiplied by 10, so it passes number 2 test, and it's raised to the power of minus 1. Minus 1 is a whole number, but it's a negative whole number. Remember, the power of that 10 will be a whole number, and it can be negative, it can be positive. So minus 1 passes the test. But because 12.1 is not between 1 and 10, this number is not in standard form. Number 7, we have 3 divided by 10 raised to the power of minus 1. Is 3 between 1 and 10? Yes, it is. So it passes test number 1. Now, test number 2 must be multiplied by 10. Is it multiplied by 10? No, it is divided by 10. Therefore, it fails number 2 test. Now, is the 10 raised to an integer power? Yes, it is raised to an integer power, so it passes number 3 test. But it has not passed all 3 tests because of this divide here. This number is not a standard form. Now, number 8, we have 10 times 10. 10 is not included in the range of numbers. It's between 1 and 10, but is not equal to 10. So you can see that 10 is not included, therefore it fails number 1 test. Yes, it is multiplied by 10, and yes, it has an integer power. But because this is 10, it is not in standard form. Number 12. We have 674 times 10 raised to the power of minus 2. Obviously, you can see that 674 is way, way, way higher than 10, and so it does not qualify to be a standard form, even though it is multiplied by 10 and raised to an integer power. Okay, so I know you now understand what makes a number to be in standard form. Okay, so now I'm going to explain to you the learning process that we are going to go through. In this video, this is just an introductory video where you have learned what a standard form is, how a standard form is written, and to identify a standard form. So this is just the introduction of the topic standard form. The next video that we are going to have is going to be SFO1 powers of 10. So in SF01 video, we'll be looking at powers of 10. For you to be able to do standard 4, you must understand how to interpret powers of 10. And the next video would be SF02, where you learn the difference between whole numbers and decimals and compare them. It's going to be a short video that will focus on whole numbers and decimal. And the next one is SF03, multiplying by multiples of 10. So we'll be looking at how to multiply numbers by multiples of 10. And then we have SF04, which is dividing by multiples of 10. So we'll be looking at how to divide numbers by multiples of 10. And then the next one is SF05, where we'll be looking at from standard form to decimal notation, how you convert from standard form to decimal notation. And then in SF06, we convert from decimal notation to standard form. And then in SF07, we will look at the laws of indices. And then the final video in this series would be SF08, where we now do calculations in standard form. Okay, so now to be a bit more clear about who this video is for anyone who wants to learn about standard form. Children in as low as primary 4 can access this video, especially SF01, SF02, SF03, and SF04. These are the foundational skills, the basic skills that you're required to have before learning about standard form. You need to understand powers of 10, differentiate between whole numbers and decimals, be able to multiply numbers by multiples of 10, which includes whole numbers and decimals. Be able to divide whole numbers and decimals by multiples of 10 before you begin to convert standard forms to decimal notations and decimal notations to standard form. And before we can calculate numbers in standard form, we need to know about the laws of indices. And that is why we have the laws of indices here. Okay, so this spans across classes from primary 4 up to JSS 3. Okay, so if you don't know anything about standard form, you're better off starting from SF01, powers of 10. If you have an idea, then maybe the prior videos would be like a revision for you. Okay, now we've done this video, we've reviewed what we've done. We have looked at what a standard form is, how to identify it, and how to decide whether a number is written in standard form or not. The question now is, have you learned that? If you've learned it, I want you to prove that to me. I want you to complete the quiz for this lesson. Like I said at the start of this video, each video will have an accompanying quiz that you will answer via a different medium. Okay, so you fill out the quiz, you will get your answer instantly as you fill the quiz and submit your scores. You can view your results and see how well you've done in the quiz. If you didn't do well enough, you can try again, and I will also see your performance in that quiz. I will see those of you who have watched this, who have learned something from it. So if you've watched it and you want Mrs. Igwe to be proud of you, I want you to make sure that you fill in that quiz so that I would know that you have watched this and you have done well in doing it. Okay, now to assess this quiz, you can assess this quiz through our WhatsApp group. So you can tell your parents to check their WhatsApp. They will find a link that leads them to this quiz, so you can fill out the quiz. Or if you go to our Facebook page, Gleaming Moon School, you will find this video there. As I'm speaking to you now, the video is live on Gleaming Moon School. So you can find this video on our Facebook page. You can also find the quiz on our Facebook page if you go to the posts section of our page. You can also get a link to the quiz through the admin. So if you get in touch with the admin will send the link to you. He can send it to you via Messenger. He can send it to you via email, or however you want him to send it to you, he can send you the link so you can complete the quiz. So our next lesson is going to be SF01, powers of 10. So I am looking forward to seeing you there in our next lesson. Bye for now.